I analyzed 20 illustrators on Instagram to find out exactly how they're posting. From 10K all the way up to 300K followers, this is what I found out. There's a lot of information about what to post on Instagram as an artist, and I found that at least with these 20 people, it didn't end up being the case for their content. I've heard that you need to post 3 to 5 times a week. You should be prioritizing video. You should be talking about things that aren't just your art. It's not necessarily what I found out when I actually did the research. Granted, 20 might not be that many illustrators, but it did range from people who do really intricate art all the way to people who do little tiny doodles every day on Instagram. And honestly, the analytics are just the analytics. Let's just get straight into the numbers so I can give you the data that I pulled from analyzing these 20 illustrators on Instagram. The first set of data was to figure out what kind of posts they're using: video, photo, static, or carousel. While I've heard over and over and over again that video is a huge priority for artists, I actually found that carousel and static posts were what the majority of artists were posting regardless of their follower count. Anyone from 10K all the way to 300K were posting mostly static or carousel posts, with carousels leading. My thought about this is simply that video is not necessarily making these artists grow more than posting static or carousel content. The reason I believe that is that when somebody's following an art account, they're really following the art account for the art. And while art accounts may seem to be harder to grow because of the fact that we think that Instagram is prioritizing video content, doesn't mean they're actually harder to grow because of the video content. Could simply just mean that overall, for all categories of content creators, video tends to do better from an engagement standpoint. But that doesn't mean that for each individual niche of content creator, there aren't specific things that work for specific groups. For this one, it just so happens to be carousels. I also analyzed if illustrators are using more of a theme to their content. Do they all have a specific style on their page, or are they kind of just going on a whim? The reality is a lot of illustrators do not just go on a whim. And I kind of knew that going into this, but I still wanted to see firsthand if that's what the data would show. Surprise, surprise. The majority of the people that I analyzed on Instagram were very stylized. They had a specific style to their artwork, and they stuck with it throughout videos, throughout carousels, and throughout static posts. Some of them even had themes. Maybe they had a specific character that they used all the time, or they had sort of a world or a few characters that they used over and over again. But for the most part, these illustrators definitely had a style, and it makes a lot of sense because when you follow an artist, you follow them for their style. What that means to me is that when you are producing content for your Instagram, it makes so much sense for your content to all be very similar in style. When somebody comes onto your Instagram page, they should know what they're getting if they hit the follow button. They should know that they're gonna get the style that they like that made them go to your feed in the first place. The next data I analyzed was what kind of content these illustrators were posting. When I say that, I mean, were they posting just their art? Were they posting tutorials? Were they posting about their business and not just their art? The data shows that artists post art. For me, when I keep looking at videos on YouTube, or when I see advice about posting content on Instagram from other artists, a lot of times they tend to not think that just posting your art is enough. From this data, it's a huge disagree. Most of these artists are posting their art very frequently, if not multiple times a day. Which leads me to how many times these illustrators are posting on their Instagram. How often are you told that you have to post at least 3 times a week? The interesting thing about these artists is that they're actually posting more than that. I know it sounds like a lot, but that's the reality of the data that I was able to capture. The data that I gathered was that there was nobody in these 20 illustrators that was only posting once a week. Most people were posting 2 to 3 times a week. The second most was 5 to 7 times a week. But there were a couple of these illustrators that were posting multiple times a day. Now I put the illustrators in these 3 categories, but I'm here to tell you that it was rare that they were posting just twice a week. Now, when we look at the data, you don't have to say, oh, I need to post a new piece of artwork every single day in order to grow. I'm not sure that's what this data is saying. What I think it's saying is that you really have to be consistent with posting your art on Instagram. Whether we're talking about a video or a carousel or a static, we have to, 1, be consistent. We have to make sure our stuff looks cohesive and stylized. And we have to, 3, make sure that our art is being posted and that the art is engaging. Reposts are huge in the art world. You want somebody to repost your content because that's how other people are going to find you and how they're going to want to follow you. Now, this is something that I analyzed. It's not something that I do, and I don't personally have 10,000 followers. But because I'm doing the research, I wanted to share with you guys what that research was. And something fun that I decided to do while I was in these profiles was figure out where else these artists were living on the internet. 13 of them had YouTubes, 6 of them had Patreons, 9 of them had Pinterest accounts, 11 of them were on some sort of marketplace, like an Etsy or a Spoonflower, a Redbubble, etc., etc., etc. Now, you don't have to show up in all these different places, but I just thought it was a good thing to know that artists tend to have their feet in different pools. But don't spread yourself too thin. If you guys can only commit to 1 or 2 platforms, definitely figure that out first. I know for me, having Instagram and YouTube is more than enough right now and kind of hard. I'm also thinking about opening an Etsy. I know there are different opinions about that, but to me, I think it makes a lot of sense for my pattern design. So I'm gonna be researching more into how to get that done, and I'll bring you guys along the ride with me there. But that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it taught you at least a little something. I know that 20 illustrators in the grand scheme of things is not really that many, but if 20 people are doing very similar things, I think that's probably the case with a lot of others too. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.